This is the brief on James Clear's philosophy from Atomic Habits. Okay, so Atomic Habits. It's way more than just a book, right? It's really James Clear's core idea about changing your behavior. He basically shows how all those tiny, almost invisible things you do every day, well, they stack up and lead to huge personal growth down the line. We've got 3 main ideas you really need to grab from it. All right, first thing to get. Clear tells us, forget about those big dramatic moments. Success? Nah, it's built bit by bit. It's all about sticking with small habits day in, day out. That steady, compounding effect. Even just like 1% better each day, that's what actually moves the needle. So, how do we know this stuff works? Well, second point, look at Clear himself. He actually lived it. He had this really serious brain injury in high school, got hit with a baseball bat. Crazy, right? But his comeback journey, going from basically sidelined to a successful college athlete, that showed him firsthand how powerful these tiny, consistent steps really are. He proved his own method. And finally, this book isn't just theory, it gives you the how-to. The whole system for building better habits. It's based on his super clear, repeatable 4-stage model. The 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. It's like a practical formula you can use right away. So yeah, the big takeaway, tiny, consistent steps. That's really the secret sauce for making huge, lasting changes in your life.
All the time about making big, drastic changes in our lives. But what if the real secret to a total transformation isn't some huge, life-altering moment? What if it's actually found in the smallest of actions? Today, we're going to unpack the powerful ideas in the book Atomic Habits by looking at the incredible and honestly pretty terrifying true story of its author, James Clear. Just let that sink in for a second. One moment, it's just a normal day. The next, this. This single, violent instant kicked off a journey that would completely redefine everything for him. So what happened? Well, a classmate took a full swing. The bat slipped right out of his hands, flew through the air, and struck James directly between the eyes. He has no memory of the impact itself, just the chaos that came after.
And the damage, it was just catastrophic. In that split second, the soft tissue of his brain literally slammed into the inside of his skull. The injuries you're seeing here, they weren't just bad, they were absolutely life-threatening.
This is where things get really, really scary. When they asked him what year it was, he said 1998, but it was actually 2002. Who's president? Bill Clinton, he said, not George W. Bush. Now, these weren't just simple mistakes, They were terrifying red flags that his brain was swelling, and fast.
And from there, it was like this terrible domino effect. His body just started to shut down. He couldn't breathe right, he had his first seizure, and then he stopped breathing altogether. The local hospital knew they couldn't handle it, so he was airlifted to a major trauma unit where, after 2 more seizures, they had no choice but to put him into a medically induced coma.
So just surviving that first night, that was battle number 1. But the war, well, it was far from over. The next phase was this long, incredibly tough, and deeply frustrating journey of trying to piece his life back together.
The daily struggle was just immense. After he woke up from the coma, something as simple as blowing his nose would force air through the fractures in his eye socket and cause his left eye to bulge out. He had double vision for weeks. It took a full 8 months before he could even drive a car again. He had to practice basic things like just walking in a straight line.
But this wasn't just a physical recovery. The emotional side was brutal. His entire life, his dream was to play pro baseball, just like his dad. A year after the injury, he finally gets back on the field and gets cut from the varsity team. This was his absolute lowest point, rock bottom.
But you know what they say about rock bottom, right? It's a pretty solid foundation to build on. When he went off to college at Denison University, he made a decision. He was going to stop worrying about these huge, out-of-reach goals and just focus on what he could actually control, tiny, daily routines.
And it all came down to this one simple idea, a habit. He wasn't trying to become a whole new person overnight. Nope. He was just trying to nail down some simple, repeatable routines that could give him back a sense of order when everything else felt like chaos.
And just look at how simple, atomic these first habits were. While all his friends were staying up late, he made a point to go to bed early.
He made sure his dorm room was always tidy. They sound so small, right? Almost ridiculously small, but that was the whole point. They were things he could achieve, and they gave him back a sense of control, and slowly, a belief in himself again.
And this, my friends, is where the real magic starts to happen. Those tiny, seemingly insignificant habits, they began to compound. Over time, all those little improvements started stacking on top of each other, and they led to some truly remarkable results.
Let's just track this comeback on the baseball team. He walks on as a freshman at the absolute bottom of the roster. But because of his consistent habits, in the gym, with his studies, with his sleep, he just transformed. By his senior year, he wasn't just on the team, he was the top male athlete in the entire university.
I mean, the results just speak for themselves. By the time he graduated, he was a record holder, listed in the school books in 8 different offensive categories.
And get this, it wasn't just athletics. 6 years after being in a coma, literally unable to remember who the president was, he was named to the ESPN Academic All-America team, a massive honor given to just 33 players in the entire country.
His entire journey really proved this one profound truth. It wasn't one single moment that changed his life. It was a long series of small wins and tiny breakthroughs that he just stuck with, year after year.
So what's so cool about this story is that he took this incredibly personal lesson and distilled it down into a framework that, honestly, any of us can use to make our own lives better.
And this is the backbone of the whole system. See, every habit follows this 4-step loop. There's a cue, which is the trigger. That leads to a craving, the motivation, which leads to a response, the actual habit, and finally, a reward. So if you want to build a good habit, he says you make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. And if you want to break a bad one, you just flip it, make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. It's the practical how-to for building a better life.
At the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. We really are what we repeatedly do. Your current outcomes, they're just a lagging measure of your habits. Your health, your wealth, your happiness, it all comes back to these small, consistent choices you make every single day.
And that really brings us back to you, doesn't it? This whole story shows us it's not about some massive overnight success. It's about picking one small atomic habit and just having the patience to see it through. So what's yours going to be?